Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents When Dusk Comes by J.J. Arias, narrated by Kingsley Rose. Chapter 1. The sultry sounds of street corner jazz and the spicy scent of a crawfish boil hung heavy in the Louisiana air. Despite the cool evening and malfunctioning heater, Erin couldn't help rolling down her window to take in the sights. This was as far south as she had ever chased any bounty, and wondered why she hadn't visited the city sooner. Night fell over the old station wagon while Erin navigated the mounting congestion. The clunker crawled along with the other cars and trucks packing the narrow, turn-of-the-century roads. Tourists and revelers spilled into the streets, unperturbed by the traffic. It looked like Mardi Gras in February, and the energy was intoxicating. It was almost enough for Erin to shake off the 26-hour drive and let the good times roll. But she forced herself to focus on the task at hand. Erin ran her fingers through thick, wavy blonde hair before double-checking the slip of paper in her pocket. The note, scrawled in her own rushed hand, showed her target was just ahead. Her heart raced in double time as she checked her location. She had done this 1,000 times before, but never so far from home. And never with so much money on the line. Every bounty hunter in the country was looking for Paul Alloro, and Erin was sure she'd found him. Old cobblestone made for a bumpy ride until the station wagon slowed to a stop in front of a grand French colonial hotel, taking up most of the city block. Nice digs, Erin thought, scanning the ornate 14-story building. The painted white brick was only interrupted by intricate carvings and sculptures adorning the building like a multi-layer wedding cake. Erin's gawking was interrupted by a man in a dark gray suit. "Good evening, ma'am." The doorman greeted her while opening the car's door. The wagon's metal hinges creaked loudly, triggering Erin's fair skin to flush dark red and brightening the green in her eyes. The young man's easy smile and soft brown eyes oozed southern charm, and he regarded Erin as if she had driven up in a Rolls-Royce. "May I help you with your bags?" he asked when Erin stepped out of the car, her joints cracking as obscenely as the car door. She pushed wild strands of wavy hair out of her face, trying her best to compose herself. "No, thanks." She smiled as warmly as she could, an Arctic blast compared to the man's welcome. "I have a meeting with the hotel manager," she explained as she snatched her messenger bag from the back seat. The man tipped his hat in understanding. If he found it odd that she'd attend a meeting in faded jeans at the end of an evidently lengthy road trip, he didn't let it show. Instead, he instructed a kid in a red vest to park Erin's car while he escorted her inside. As she followed the man in his extravagant tails and top hat, Erin felt herself slipping into an entirely different time. She half expected the revolving door to open up on a smoky salon where the ghost of Marlene Dietrich would be taking a drag from a cigarette holder, while listening to Oscar Wilde recite poetry. Erin was more than a little disappointed to find the lobby inhabited by fancy furniture and people in modern-day dress. The doorman gestured to an older woman behind a white antique reception desk. "She can help you," he said, turning to Erin and smiling before tipping his hat once more. She ignored the strange and overwhelming urge to curtsy, opting instead for a grateful thank you and a shake of his hand. "Crap," she cursed to herself, embarrassed when the young man disappeared out the door. "You're supposed to tip." "May I help you?" The clerk smiled as her eyes scanned Erin from black mid-calf boots to wild mane. "I'm here to see your manager, Mr. Alloro," Erin replied with an encouraging smile. She tugged at the bottom of her black leather jacket to hide the gun holstered on her hip. "I'm sorry, miss, but our manager's name is Williams," the clerk responded amiably. Erin tilted her head as she considered the information. Fugitives often use fake names and create new lives while on the run. "Right, of course." She pulled out a worn, leather-bound notebook from her bag. "I'm sorry," she continued, reading the blank sheet. "Williams, right? I was thinking of my next meeting." The clerk narrowed her eyes. "Have a seat," He'll be right with you." She gestured with a nod to a seating area. Erin held her breath until she heard her call Williams on the phone. A few minutes later, a handsome, dark-skinned man in a suit emerged from a door behind the front desk. "May I help you?" he asked, Southern accent firmly in place. "You're the hotel manager." Erin couldn't disguise her confusion. The good-looking, 6-foot-tall man in his late 30s was not the 5.5-foot-tall, old, bald, overweight, pale New Yorker she was chasing. "I am," he responded pleasantly, despite Erin's unintentionally rude tone. Her eyes darted uselessly around the room. "Is there another manager?" "No, ma'am. Is there a problem?" he asked, dropping his smile and straightening his posture. "Well, I'm trying to find my long-lost father, and he's supposed to be the manager here." Erin summoned her gentlest voice and tried to make her tired sea-green eyes widen. The long drive had dampened her acting chops. Williams adjusted his pink tie unnecessarily. "Miss, I have no children, and certainly none I fathered when I was 10 years old." "Oh, no, I mean, that's why I asked if there was another manager." Erin faltered, her face bright red. "Here," she groped through her bag. "This is his picture." She offered him a blown-up 8x10 mugshot of her mark. Williams scanned the photo for several seconds before shaking his head. "I'm sorry, but he doesn't work at this hotel." "I have it on good authority he does." She responded more seriously. She was no stranger to people covering for her targets. "Ma'am, I am the hotel manager. I know everyone who works here or who has worked here over the last 8 years. Williams tightened his jaw. "He doesn't work here in any capacity." His words were sharp and aimed at cutting the conversation short. "Listen, I'll level with you." Erin rested her hands on her hips, the gun holster peeking out from under the bottom of her jacket. "I'm looking for a fugitive, and if you're harboring him, you're looking at criminal charges. That means real prison time, buddy." The blood pulsed through Erin's body as she struggled to keep her composure. The situation was slipping out of her control, and if he asked her to leave, she would have no power to refuse, which would spell the end of this lead. Alora would likely get wind she was on his trail and vanish. "Lady, I don't know what your problem is, but you have no right to come in here making threats. This man is not here, and I think it's time you left." A small crowd had gathered to watch the escalating drama as the pressure mounted at the base of Erin's skull. She had to salvage this. "Is there a problem here, Teddy?" another man in a suit asked as he approached them. "No, Mr. Sanders. This lady was just leaving," Williams snapped. "Actually, Mr. Sanders, there is a problem." Erin earned a sideways glance from the irritated manager. "Why don't we step over here?" The man extended his hand toward a closed door at the end of the lobby. Erin guessed it was a conference room out of earshot from the main part of the hotel. "I don't think so," she said defiantly, not willing to be corralled into a back room and give up the tiny advantage she had. The pressure of onlookers might produce much-needed answers. "I'm here looking for a wanted criminal employed by this hotel," she said louder than necessary. A curious hotel patron gasped in shock at the assertion. Erin could almost hear the sound of the lady clutching her pearls, and it spurred her on. She stiffened her back and crossed her arms over her chest, her eyebrows raised expectantly. "Your move." "Keep your voice down, please," Sanders pleaded in a hushed tone. "What is she talking about?" he asked, turning to the manager for answers. "I've told her several times that the man she's looking for isn't here," Williams answered through gritted teeth, exasperation oozing from his pores. "He is here," Erin insisted. As much as her well-trained gut told her these men weren't lying, she trusted her source and the weeks of work that led her here. Maybe they weren't lying, but Erin was sure they were hiding something. There was no way she could have gotten it completely wrong. "All right, please, everyone calm down." Sanders glanced back at the pair he had been escorting through the hotel. The woman in the white pantsuit was staring in their direction. Erin pushed aside her guilt at the panic rising in his face. I'm the general manager for the southeastern United States, and I can assure you that we would never let a fugitive work for us. We do thorough background checks. No one slips through the cracks, he explained, beads of sweat forming at his temples. He could be laboring under an alias. Do you recognize this man? Erin flashed the mugshot in a last-ditch effort to salvage her investigation. I'm sorry, no. The general manager replied after a critical evaluation of the photo. Problem, Mr. Sanders? The woman in the white suit asked. The husky melody of her voice snapped heads around in her direction. Erin hadn't sensed her approach until she was upon them. Her brain struggled to make sense of the woman in front of her. It was like catching a glimpse of a foreign movie star. Erin had no idea who she was, but it was obvious she was somebody. The woman's silky black hair, cut into a short bob, framed an elegant face, Grecian nose, and pointed chin. Her tan skin was flawless, and Erin was positive it would be soft to the touch. But her eyes were the most captivating part. Erin couldn't stop staring at the almond shape and dark honey tone. Sanders' voice shattered Erin's enthrallment and forced her back to the present. No, he replied, mouth contorted into a pained smile. Erin had to work to remember what he was talking about. The bounty. We've sorted it all out, he continued, perspiration soaking through his expensive shirt. Let's continue, shall we? He added after an audible gulp. The woman gave no hint she entertained Sanders' idea of resuming with business as usual, and her dark eyes regarded the trio with open skepticism. She glanced at the photo in Erin's tight grasp. Erin could do little but silently stare while the woman observed the upside-down photo. Through her peripheral vision, she saw hotel patrons being moved along and away from the main lobby. But she barely processed anything other than the woman patiently waiting for her to hand over the photo. May I see that? She asked more directly, meeting Erin's gaze as she made her request. No, she responded weakly, her words barely audible. She'd never been in the presence of a more attractive person in her life. The effect was devastating. Erin couldn't feel her legs below the knee, as if her entire body was turning slowly to stone. This woman was literally stunning. You say this man is a criminal? She asked. Her fingertips grazed Erin's lightly as she took the photograph in spite of her objection. The sensation sent an electric current pulsating through Erin's body, the jolt restarting her brain. Yes, but don't worry. He's not here. You have nothing to fear. This is a great hotel. You're in safe hands, and anyway, he's an embezzler, not like a murderer or anything. Erin rambled nervously. Get your shit together. The woman smiled in response, causing the managers to exchange terrified glances. No, he's not here, she replied, lifting her eyes from the mugshot and letting them fall on Erin once more. The weight of her gaze sent the temperature in the room soaring. Erin suddenly understood all the sweating. Interacting with this woman was like trying to hug the sun. You have the right hotel, but the wrong city. Erin's eyebrows knitted together in confusion. I don't understand. The manager... No disrespect intended toward these capable gentlemen. Even the kindness she extended toward Sanders and Williams was intimidating. They dropped their eyes to the floor at her words. But I can assure you I'm better suited to provide information on the persons I employ. A small, icy smile, the kind that appeared only in obligatory settings, graced the woman's full red lips. My name is Lucía Guerra. I own this hotel. She explained what would have been more obvious if Erin's mind was functioning at full capacity. You own this noctis? She asked redundantly for lack of a better response. She owns every noctis. The man that had been by Lucia's side at the stairs clarified when he joined the group. His bright brown eyes complemented the bronze tint of his flawless olive skin. From his having guided people out of the lobby, Erin guessed this guy was Lucia's fixer. He probably didn't want to risk any tarnish to the hotel's reputation if the wealthy clientele found out they were employing known felons. Well, that's unexpected. Erin had no idea pursuing this target would lead her to so many firsts. A first time in New Orleans, a first time in such a fancy hotel, and her first drop-dead gorgeous, probable millionaire acquaintance. Not that Erin had ever met an ugly tycoon. "I'm so sorry to have troubled you." Erin began bowing out slowly. The embarrassment sent a flight response surging through her system. All she wanted to do was leave. She spun on her heels, eyes trained on the front door. "Miss," Lucia called, obviously expecting Erin to turn around and supply her name. "Lewis," she responded before turning to leave once more. "But you can call me Erin. Miss Lewis is my dad's name." Erin cringed as soon as she heard herself. She had lost all control of the words evacuating her mouth. "Miss Lewis." Lucia's voice was warm and soothing, like drinking hot chocolate in front of a roaring fire. Erin stopped in her tracks. When Lucia didn't speak right away, she got the hint and rejoined the group. There would be no swift end to her mortification. "As I was saying, you have the correct hotel, but have arrived in the wrong city," Lucia repeated, something like amusement playing on her lips. "He is not in the New Orleans Noctis. He manages the property in Orléans." Erin's confusion at the information must have been plastered on her face. "Orléans," Lucia repeated. "France," she finished, and Erin's eyes widened for real. "France," she mimicked like a slow parrot. "Oh." Erin's shoulders dropped at the news. "I will alert the authorities there, I suppose," she said, attempting to hide her disappointment. "Is there a problem? You can apprehend him, can you not? I don't want a criminal in my employ." Lucia's sculpted eyebrow lifted just slightly at the end, sending another wave of heat through Erin's poorly equipped body. "Unfortunately, I can't arrest him there, and I couldn't afford the trip anyway," she admitted from under a metric ton of embarrassment. "That has a simple solution." Lucia returned the photo to Erin's clammy hands. "We will leave for Orléans tomorrow. You will join us. I can't have this matter going public. I would rather he went quietly with you than be dragged out by government agents with his face plastered all over the news. I cannot risk being associated with this," Lucia explained, as if her need for Erin should be apparent. "Miss Guerra, thank you for your offer, but You will be compensated for your services and discretion, of course," Lucia interrupted confidently. Erin laughed to expend some nervous energy. This must be a joke. "I can't go to France tomorrow," she explained. "I don't even have a passport." She added in total bewilderment. "And anyway, as I said, I can't make him come with me. He might run and no one will ever see him again." She hoped Lucia was the understanding sort who took kindly to hearing the word no. "I understand, Miss Lewis," Lucia cooed, her voice luxurious and velvety. Erin breathed a heavy sigh of relief. The end is near. "Samael," Lucia called to the man on her right. "Please see that Miss Lewis obtains whatever authorization she needs to travel. Notify the crew of our change in itinerary." The man nodded in response before striding away with a cell phone to his ear. "I give you my word, Miss Lewis. You will have no trouble from the man you seek. He will come with you willingly," Lucia promised, the hint of a half-smile curling on her lips. Erin was stunned into silence by her smile. For a moment, she wondered if she had fallen asleep at the wheel somewhere and was having a vivid dream during her coma. "Very well. Lucia responded, signaling her interpretation of Erin's silence as acceptance. Where are you staying? Lucia's dark honeyed eyes gave Erin a quick once-over. Oh, well, nowhere. I hadn't planned on staying, she admitted. Lucia nodded curtly and turned to the two men standing off to the side. I'm sure they'll see you to suitable accommodations, she said matter-of-factly, sending Williams and Sanders springing to life and shuffling to the computer at the front desk. Thank you, Erin managed when she was left alone with Lucia. You're like a guardian angel, she joked to ease her own awkwardness. Lucia grinned devilishly, and the tip of her tongue peeked out of her mouth for just a second to moisten her bottom lip. Erin was overcome with the intense and primal desire to know what those lips tasted like. Lucia leaned in a few inches, close enough for Erin to smell the subtle sweetness of her perfume. The proximity caused her pulse to race as heat flooded her body. It was all Erin could do to keep herself from pushing Lucia up against the Venetian-plastered wall and devour her. I can promise you, Miss Lewis. Lucia's low, sultry whisper made Erin's heart pound harder in her chest. I am no angel. The words flowed from Lucia's mouth and wrapped themselves around Erin's body, and she felt as if she was being enveloped in silk sheets and ravished. She closed her eyes briefly, and when she opened them, Lucia was floating away. Be here at 6 o'clock sharp tomorrow night. Samael's voice was jarring and forced Erin's gaping mouth shut. Feel this out. He handed her a sheet of paper with handwritten questions. Then seal it in an envelope and give it to Williams, he instructed. You need to do that tonight. Erin nodded but couldn't find any words. Samael rolled his eyes before disappearing out the revolving doors. Right this way, Miss Lewis. Williams forced a smile. Erin couldn't care less that Williams didn't look too stoked with the task he'd been assigned. She was desperately trying to process what the hell just happened. Did I even say yes? As she followed Williams to her room, Erin tried to remember how she had apparently agreed to go to France tomorrow. Holy crap! Erin gasped upon discovering she had been given a suite with a balcony overlooking Bourbon Street. Laissez le bon temps rouler, she shouted like a predictable tourist. Revelers met her call with raucous cheers and more than one set of naked boobs. Erin found a bucket of complimentary beads on the tiny balcony and flung them in the customary fashion. It may not have been Fat Tuesday, but it certainly looked that way to Erin. She found a second wind and decided to enjoy her only night in New Orleans. After a quick shower, she redressed in the same outfit, minus the underwear she'd left drying in the shower. She glanced at her Swatch watch knockoff and decided to call her dad before it got any later in Boston. Hey, kiddo. Her dad answered excitedly as he always did when she called. She listened for any signs of slurred speech. Hi, Pops, she greeted. How's it going? Fine, fine. Just sitting here practicing my wood whittling skills like a fine old man, he said, trying to affect a southern drawl to cover his heavy New England accent. Oh, please, you're not even old enough to retire, she said with a laugh. Well, I guess I'll be pretty good at it by then. You'll never guess where I'm going tomorrow, Erin said excitedly. Oh, are you going on one of those bayou boat tours? I know you weren't planning on staying, but you've got to rest, and you might as well take in some sights. Oh, I'll be taking in some sights, all right. I'm going to France, Erin said with renewed laughter. It still sounded unbelievable. Erin filled her dad in on the details, though she failed to mention how gorgeous Lucia was. Pete listened to the tale without interruption. Erin, you don't think this is some kind of scam, do you? I mean, if they ask you to carry a bag for them, you say no, no matter how much cash they offer. No matter what. We don't need the money that badly. It's not worth you getting locked up abroad. Pete's tone was more serious than Erin was used to. Usually she was the one handing out words of caution. What kind of crappy bounty hunter do you think I am? Don't answer that. she added before he could respond. Listen, I checked her out online, and she is who she says she is. Erin glanced at her phone. The article she was reading, Hotelier Opens Hotspot in Hong Kong, was still open. The picture of Lucia stepping out of the high-rise, her face stoic and impassible, drove Erin to distraction. Honey? Pete asked, forcing her back to the present. Yeah, so anyway, she cleared her throat. I'm going to be away for a couple of days, but I'll check in as soon as I can. My phone won't work outside the country, so I'll call when you're home from work. Okay, but don't you be worried about your old man. I'm fine. My utilities were paid in advance again this month, though I'm sure you wouldn't know anything about that, he said with a knowing chuckle. You just be careful, and don't get used to eating snails and frog legs, he teased. No chance of that, Erin laughed. When they hung up, she stayed on the bed for another minute. He really does sound fine, she told herself. If you wanted her, it would have been a lot cheaper to just invite her to your bed, Samael commented as he slipped his phone into his suit pockets and made himself comfortable in the back of the limousine. Lucia crossed her legs and leaned over to reach for a wine glass. She hated drinking in the car, but she was parched. Sometimes, Lucia began, pouring herself a drink from an intricately decorated glass decanter. A lioness in captivity tires of being served the most exquisite cuts of meat. She set the heavy decanter back onto the small bar built into the car door. From time to time, a predator needs to hunt or her fangs will grow dull and her nights pointless. She finished before taking a sip of the rich, red beverage. And anyway, that bastard Loro is stealing from me. Allowing him to turn himself in will be significantly less messy. Samael smirked, the sharp white points flashing in his mouth. He combed his fingers through the soft raven curls of the handsome young man sitting at his side. He muttered something like, "If you say so," before baring his teeth and sinking them into his favorite lover. Lucia watched for a moment in measured amusement before taking another long sip of her drink. Her tongue, warm and tingly, swiped across her lips to pick up any errant drops. Even after her fangs retracted when her hunger was sated, her lips retained the bright red stain. Lucia leaned back in the leather seat and let her body relax. She considered the girl she'd just met. What a strange combination of grit and awkward youth. It had been so long since she'd chased anyone so outside her orbit. Perhaps it would be a much-needed diversion in what had become a monotonous existence. Hello. Lucia answered her phone. "My queen." The voice on the other end wavered. "There's been an attack." He continued with rushed details. Lucia straightened, earning a concerned look from Samael. He left his lover's neck as soon as Lucia's breathing pattern changed. "What is it?" Samael asked, his face reflecting his concern. "An attack," she responded without elaborating. "Another one." Chapter 2. The mid-morning light streamed in through open plantation shutters, but it wasn't the uninvited sunshine that stirred Erin from a deep sleep. "Room service!" A disembodied voice called through the door. Erin grumbled loudly but failed to move from the bed. Her head crept under the pillow to keep the brightness at bay. Even the sound of her room door opening was not enough to rouse her. She hauled the sheets up a little higher to cover her naked body. She didn't exactly recall getting naked, or even getting back to her room for that matter. The last thing she remembered was knocking back deceptively sweet hurricanes and singing karaoke at some dive bar. Oh God, I was singing, she thought in horror. Loudly, judging by the soreness in her throat. "Miss Lewis, I brought you breakfast," a plump, middle-aged woman with a slight Spanish accent announced like they were previously acquainted. Erin lifted the pillow from her face, barely revealing one squinting eye. "Nope," Erin confirmed. "I don't know you." "Thank you." She mumbled through down feathers and plush cotton. My credit card is in the back.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?